Welcome to My Turn Life Coaching with me, Rikki Schwartz. If you're like most people, you've spent your entire life focusing on the demands of parenting, of relationships, of your livelihood. Much like you've been riding in a life-powered bobsled, leaning into what others expect of you. But I'm here to help you reclaim your life. I want to embolden you to raise your hand today and every day and say, "It's my turn." Hello, everyone. I'm Rikki Schwartz, and welcome to It's My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour, and let's see if we can begin to get the seeds of reclaiming your life to take root. And then please join us on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month at noon Pacific time, where my expert guests and I will do our best to give you the tools you'll need to finally say, "It's my turn." On today's show, I am honored and excited to have friend and colleague, Anu Smalley. Anu Smalley is president and founder of the Kapala Consulting Group, where she provides executive career and life coaching, education, and consulting services to clients across the globe with a strong focus on leadership coaching and empowerment of women and girls. She's developed a coaching program specifically designed for evolving leaders. Anu speaks frequently at conferences nationally and internationally on, among other topics, unconscious bias, microaggressions, and gender parity. With over 25 years of industry experience, Anu holds a master's degree in psychology from the Osmania University in India and a master's degree in business administration from Bowling Green State University. I chose Anu to be my guest on this podcast because I am convinced that the assessment tool we're going to be discussing today is one of the most profound assessment tools I've ever used. But like any tool, it requires the guidance of an experienced practitioner, such as Anu, to use it to its best advantage. So today, Anu is going to be talking about the internal saboteurs that cause all of our stress, anxiety, self-doubt, frustration, regret, shame, guilt, unhappiness. And in particular, she's going to be diving into the Saboteur Assessment tool created by Stanford and Yale faculty member and prior chairman of the Coaches Training Institute, Shirzad Chamine, who created what he calls the Saboteur Assessment tool and then used it as the basis for his New York Times best-selling book, Positive Intelligence. Anu, a Coaches Training Institute coach herself, studied the Saboteur tool as part of Chirzad's Positive Intelligence program, and it has since become one of her core coaching tools. Anu, welcome to My Turn Life Coaching, and thank you so much for being here.
Wow, I sound impressive on all
you
that
do,
thing that
you do, and don't you ever forget it.
Oh my goodness! So here's my first saboteur speaking. As you were reading, I'm going, "Oh my God, why is she talking so much about me?" And I realized, saboteur, stop talking. Yes, I have achieved all this and I deserve to be talked about.
Oh my gosh. Listeners, remember that when she starts to do a deep dive, and you will see she just gave one of the best examples of our internal saboteur that I can think of. Thank you.
It is amazing.
It really is, because I'm still learning to turn right, as you're going to call it. So we'll get to that later. So in an effort to kind of fast track a connection between all of my guests and the listeners, I begin every interview with the same question, which I will pose to you now. What are your personal core values, and in particular, the ones that align with our interview today?
So my core values are some of the things I strongly rely on is integrity, authenticity,
yes,
joy.
It's a good one.
Right, so I evolve around various those, and then various aspects of those, and how they connect to this is there's a great question, and it's a deep connection. Integrity and being authentic is a deep part of understanding your saboteurs. Helps with that. If you understand your saboteurs, you can be you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And if you can understand your saboteurs, it can bring you joy, because now you know how to deal with them.
Perfect. Or
So
it won't bring you the opposite of joy, which is all those things I
exactly.
mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
So yeah, great question.
Good. So for those who aren't familiar with this tool, I'm going to set the table a little bit with you. And before we dive into it at a high level for the next 4 minutes or so, what makes Shirzad Chamine's Saboteur Assessment tool different than other self-assessment tools?
So I have used, I mean, I'm a psychology major, right? So name an assessment tool, I've probably done it. And while every assessment has its value, this particular assessment actually, it helps you figure you out.
I like that.
Right. So there are so many other assessments that tell you what's your personality type, which is great, which is invaluable, but it doesn't tell me, it doesn't give me a window into my own self to say, why do I do the things I do? I think Shirzad's test tool actually makes it very simple. A lot of these psychological techniques and assessment tools, as a coach myself, I sometimes get confounded by, wait, what do I do?
Yes. Yes.
With the Saboteur assessment, he just breaks it down to such simple terms.
I agree. I think, go ahead, please go ahead.
And that's for me why I think this is brilliant.
I agree 100%. I remember when our friend Michael recommended that I take it, my, just like everybody's first thought was, oh, good, another self-assessment tool. So I kind of put it off for a long time. But he kept asking me, did you take it? It's really amazing. So finally I took it. The first thing I noticed was it's so much quicker than most of them, right? Myers-Briggs takes, I don't know how long. And so many of the other ones, Discovery Insights takes, 45 minutes. This takes maybe 10, and that's if you're moving pretty slow.
Exactly.
And then once you have the results, you're right. The way that he describes what those results imply and what to do with that information is exponentially more simple than so many other assessment tools that I've taken, but at the same time, even more profound. So you put those two together, and I was so delighted by it. I continue to be inspired by it.
And I took the assessment first in early 2020. Chirzad actually opened up a coaching program for coaches, and he actually got some funding to do a free coaching program for a bunch of coaches where we were introduced to the tool and how to use it. It was a great program, and I participated in that, and that's how I learned about this. I'm actually doing it over again because I learned so much there. I'm doing it again because it was good. And what I've realized is over the course of the year, I have found that the depth of my saboteurs is unending.
That's interesting. That's scary and interesting.
Yeah, every time I go, but that's what I do. And I go, crap, why do I do that?
Yes.
And it's making me, like I was talking to somebody today and I said, so one of the things I've realized is I am a deep believer in being authentic. I'm a deep believer in integrity. And yet, if I don't understand my saboteurs, am I really being authentic? And my goal now is I want to be more me.
Yeah.
And being more me means I need to go deeper than my saboteurs will allow me to go.
I agree. I would say that sharing any of these, when the assessment tools always give you some kind of information about yourself. And what I discovered when I really became a fan of so many of them, of course, including this one, was almost, not literally, but almost begin the conversation with someone you're going to work closely with this information. I think it's a shortcut to them understanding why your knee-jerk reaction is to respond or behave this way. And it just opens up the dialogue, and it reduces that barrier where people are saying, why is she acting that way? Why is she thinking or talking that way? I'm the first one to say, you know what? I just want you to know one of my biggest saboteurs is XYZ. And just keep that at the forefront of your mind. But you and I, we're going to work together to make sure it doesn't sabotage us. So I've kind of come to do that.
Yeah. And also as you said, helping other people understand you. But imagine if you are a team lead.
Yes.
And everybody on your team takes the saboteur assessment.
Yes.
You now know why your team is behaving the way they're behaving.
That's perfect. And along those lines, I've told so many of my friends, those maybe struggling with marital problems, those struggling with problems with their kids, have everybody take it. Have everybody in the family take it.
Yep.
It immediately breaks down barriers, I think.
Absolutely. Each one of my coaching clients, I don't care what you come to me for coaching, whether it's career coaching or life coaching or executive leadership coaching or agile coaching, it doesn't matter. You will take this tool.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. In my life coaching business, I've started to have them take this tool as well.
Yep.
So I stole that from you. I can't interpret it nearly as well as you do, obviously, because I haven't been trained in it. But just knowing the saboteurs gives me such a head start on understanding who I'm dealing with and what their demons are. So thank you for introducing it to me for that reason too.
We should all thank Shirzad.
Yeah, Shirzad, please for me. So right now, we're going to take our first break. Folks, you're listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to chat some more about those pesky saboteurs of our minds and where they come from. Why do we have them? So stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 minutes with a new Smalley. And we're back. You are listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. My expert guest today is a new Smalley, president and founder of the Kapala Consulting Group, LLC. Before we jump back in, I want to remind any of our Facebook Live guests that we welcome any questions or comments you have. Just pop those into the comments field. Or you can call the studio anytime while we're on air to speak with myself or Anu. That phone number, 800-930-2819. Also, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to contact Anu once the interview is over. Anu, please give the listeners your best contact information for anyone who might have follow-up questions or want to obtain your services.
The best way to reach me is my email address. It's anu, A-N-U, @kapalaconsulting.com. That is the best way to reach me, or connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message that way.
Perfect. And I'm going to spell Kapala for everyone, C-A-P-A-L-A. So C is cat, A is apple, P is Paul, A is apple, L is lamplighter, A is apple. Kapala Consulting Group. So Anu, where do these saboteurs of the mind come from? How and why do they evolve?
So, very interesting concept here. So based on the research that was done, what Chirzad identified is that saboteurs start off as our guardians in our childhood. They form as a way of helping us survive real or imagined threats to our physical and emotional survival. So for example, if we as a child, if you had a situation where, I'll give you a great example. As a child, you touch something hot. You go, ouch, no, I'm not touching it again. Next time you see something that has steam coming out of it, your guardian is going to go, don't touch that. That was hot. Remember what happened last time? So now forever, you are going to be petrified of or stay away from something that has steam coming out of it. Now, as an adult, you're trying to get into a spa and your mind's going, oh, hot, stay away. That's the evolution of the saboteur. They start off as guardian. They're there to help us because as children, we don't have the wherewithal to think through and make decisions because we don't have enough information. So as a child, we do this. These are over time, as adults, we don't need them, but because of our use of them over and over again, they've become invisible inhabitants in our mind. We don't know they exist, but they do. And as we grow older and as the patterns happen over and over again, they are They become stronger and stronger and stronger until your most common, strongest saboteurs are with you at all time, and you don't even know them, and you don't even know they exist, right?
And then I
When
think, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, these saboteurs will claim that they're really good for you because they're trying to protect you. But we need to figure out how to, because we are now grown adults, we can make different judgments and decisions.
It kind of it reminds me of too much of a good thing, right? Eventually they're great, but as we get older, they lose their value and in fact begin to sabotage us. And I think, go ahead.
Yeah.
The last time we talked about it, you called, and maybe you're going to address this a little bit later, but you called them accomplice saboteurs, meaning we all have one all the time. What's that one?
So this is, so according to Shirzad's research, we have every human being on the planet has one main saboteur. It's called the judge. This is, as the name calls it, the thing that judges us. And we all judge ourselves, good and bad. Going back to the beginning when you were interviewing me, when you were introducing me, sorry.
Yep.
My judge went, you know, what are you talking about? My judge was judging me.
Yep.
Right. That's your main saboteur. You have 9 accomplice saboteurs that go along with the judge, because at different times, different saboteurs show up. Because guess what? We don't just have one.
Right.
We got 9 of them. So collectively 10.
And they're kind of ranked, right? And again, we're going to talk about them, but we have the ones that are really prominent and then less prominent in each of us. Yes.
Well, each one of us will be different, right? So for me, the judge is the one who's there constantly. And whether the judge is always talking to us. Like right now, I'm going, your hair doesn't look nice. That's my judge talking. I put my glasses on because my allergy wrinkled eyes are looking bad. That's my judge talking, right? So everything we do, the judge is always with us. Yeah. Okay. What tone of voice the judge uses depends on which saboteur or which sage is most prominent in the moment.
Okay.
So I could say, oh my God, you know, I didn't deserve to have all those things, wonderful things said about me. My judge is talking there with my, maybe a pleaser saboteur, or maybe my, you know, maybe it's the victim or the avoider saboteur saying, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Or if I'm saying, you know what, I actually totally deserve that. I worked my behind off and I've done all these things. That's my sage, which is the opposite of the saboteurs. Okay. That's my sage talking. And my judge is saying, yeah, go kick ass.
Okay, so just so the listeners know, in the next segment, you're going to dive into each of those 9 saboteurs. Yep. We're going to talk about how they started out as guardians, or at least for one of them, how it started out as a guardian, how it then ends up sabotaging you. We're going to do a really nice dive in the next segment. In this segment, I'd love everybody to grab a piece of letter-sized paper and a pencil or a pen. Grab a piece of letter-sized paper, and you're going to create a 9-cell matrix. 3 rows, 3 columns, called a table, but it'll have 9 cells. And the 3 columns that run along the top will be collectively titled motivation. So get out a piece of paper, create your 9-cell table. At the top of it, put motivation. And then the 3 rows that are going to run along the left side axis will be collectively titled style. So put motivation at the top, put style along the left-hand side. And then anew, you're going to let them know at this point, what should they write for the 3 column headers that fall under motivation? And what should they write for the 3 row descriptors that fall into style? I'll let you do that.
Awesome. So the accomplices, so we talked about the judge. The accomplices are broken up by motivation and style, as Rikki just said. So under motivation, the 3 column headers are independence. Is your motivation to be independent, to be, you know, the ruler of your own kingdom? Is your motivation acceptance? You want to be accepted by all and you want to be the everyone loves me gal? Or is your motivation security? I am focused on being safe and secure and being protective. So motivation is broken up into 3: independence, acceptance, and security.
Now the rose.
On the rose, it's style. So what is your approach? What is your style of being? Do you assert yourself? That is the first row, assert. How assertive are you? Are you passive? Are you assertive? How do you function? The second row is earn. Do you earn everything? Do you believe in everyone must earn what they get? Or are you willing, if you want everything handed to you on a silver spoon, right? And the last style is avoid. How much do you avoid stuff? When bad things happen, do you close your eyes and say, nope, I can't see anything? Or are you willing to go all in and say, you know what? I can decide stuff. So on the left-hand side, on the rows, it's style. The first row is assert. The second row is earn. And the third row is avoid.
And the motivation columns again?
Motivation was independence, acceptance, and security.
Perfect. So in our next segment, which is going to start in just a couple of minutes, listeners, we're going to do a deep dive into each of those 9 saboteurs, and each one is going to go in one of those cells that you just created. So 9 saboteurs, you have 9 cells. So make sure you keep that paper handy through the break. And then I found that even when people didn't create the table, because sometimes they're listening to this in their car or whatever, they're still going to get a great deal of value out of what you're going to explain and how each saboteur is set up. But I will say that once I did set up the matrix for myself, it is really, really helpful to be able to see how they relate to my motivation and to my style.
Yes.
So while it isn't mandatory, I think folks will find it very, very helpful. I'm going to have you list the 3 column headers and the 3 rows one more time in case folks didn't have a piece of paper when they needed one. So go for it one more time.
All right. Across the top is motivation, and the 3 columns are independence, acceptance, and security. And the row side is style. First row is assert. Second row is earn. And the third row is avoid.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And I just want to make sure when these saboteur accomplices show up, they call accomplices because they are the judge's accomplice.
So the accomplice to the judge, which is ever present.
Judge, which is ever present.
Got it. That's an important, I think, differentiator. I think especially when they start to hear more about them. So perfect. Yep. Okay, I think right now we're going to take our second break. You are listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. When we come back, we're going to do a deep dive into each of the 9 accomplice saboteurs, show you where you can find this free online tool, and get you started understanding your own self-sabotage. And we're back. You're listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. I have a new Smalley here talking about Shirzad Chamine's Saboteur Assessment tool. And by the way, listeners can find this free online assessment tool at positiveintelligence.com. Again, that's positiveintelligence.com. And I strongly encourage you to do so. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. In the last segment anew, we talked about the 3 categories under motivation, the 3 categories under style that frame the matrix into which these accomplice saboteurs fall. So listeners, grab the matrix shell, if you want to call it, that you created at the end of the last segment. And anew now, please list the 9 accomplice saboteurs and tell folks where to put them in that matrix.
So let's begin with going across the row. So we're going to start with the assert, which is the first row. So assert, style is assert, motivation is independence.
Okay.
That saboteur is controller. So this is the first row.
Upper left corner of the table.
Upper
right?
left corner on your 9 block.
And the name of the saboteur again?
Controller. So this is the person who needs the independence is they're very assertive, and they are all about wanting to make sure they are focused on controlling everything.
And they're motivated by independence, right? So they're very
motivated
assertive
by
and motivated
independence.
Got it. The controller. Okay, what's
the
next?
Controller. So staying on the assertive, highly assertive, but now their motivation is acceptance. They need to be accepted by one and all. So this is called the hyperachiever. So the idea here is my motivation is acceptance based on my achievements. So hyperachiever. So this is assert column and acceptance. So middle column, top row.
Got it.
The last one in the assert row under the security column is restless. So this is the person who is constantly in search for greater things, whether it's greater acceptance, greater excitement, next activity. So very restless. So their security, they focus on security by constantly doing stuff, right? That's their style. And they're very assertive. They go out and get what they want.
Gotcha.
So on the assertive row, you have controller, hyperachiever, and restless.
Perfect.
That is the top row of your 9 block.
Got it.
The next row of your 9 block is going to be around the earn row. So how do you earn? What is your approach to earning what you want? So we're going to again start with column 1, independence. This particular saboteur is called the stickler. So you're independent and your motivation is independent. Your style is earn, stickler, middle row, first column.
Got it.
The stickler is usually perfectionist, need for control and order and organization. The second one in the row of the earn is pleaser. So this is along the acceptance. So the pleaser is trying to gain acceptance by helping and pleasing. So this is the pleaser. Second row, middle column, earn and acceptance is the pleaser. The last saboteur on the earn is the third column under security, is hypervigilant, the most security conscious one of the earners. They are focused on how am I constantly looking at things. I have a plan B for my plan B. And so how do you, you're constantly looking at dangers and what's happening and the what if scenarios. Your what if scenarios have what if scenarios. So that's the third column, middle row, hypervigilant. So now let's get to the avoid row, the last column on the bottom. Independence, motivation, and style is avoid. Your saboteur is called the avoider. You avoid stuff. Doesn't matter if you believe, if you don't hear it, don't see it, it doesn't exist. So you hide, you avoid. Avoid and acceptance as motivation. This is last row, middle column. This is the victim. You're constantly focused on trying to use your emotions and trying to gain other people's attention and affection by being the victim. The last saboteur is on the bottom row, third column. So style is avoid, motivation is security. It's called the hyper-rational. You are now the king or queen of justification. There is a reason for everything. Everything happens for a reason, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. You can reason your way through a problem. So the 9 saboteurs. So I'm going to start from the top left, go across the row. So the top is controller, hyperachiever, restless, middle, stickler, pleaser, hypervigilant, bottom row, avoider, victim, hyperrational. Your 9 accomplice saboteurs.
Got it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now that we kind of, and we're going to do a deep dive into one of them, so everybody can get a feeling for the report that they get after they take the tool. I just asked you to take one of your favorite ones, maybe one that happens to be one of yours. I won't ask. And the report that you get back, number 1, tells you exactly where in the table it falls. And it also tells you the following about that saboteur: characteristics of it, your thoughts related to it, feelings related to it, the justification lies that you tell yourself in order to keep it. That's my favorite. The impact it has on self and on others, and what was its original survival function? When and why did it serve, not when, but why did it serve as a guardian for you when you needed it? And how did it serve as a guardian? So pick your favorite one, Anu, and let's go through each of those characteristics.
Pick my favorite one.
I know it's hard. It's like a favorite baby.
So my top two, I'll talk about two and then I'll dig into one, is pleaser and restless.
Okay.
Not a good combination. My next one is stickler. So again, my top three are recipe for disaster. And here's, let me talk about, and they're all connected according to me, right? So let's talk about restless.
Okay.
I think I want to talk about restless.
Okay.
Okay. So the restless is constantly in search of the next thing to do. New excitement, new thing, new certification, new class, new job. I have never lasted in a job for more than 4 years, ever. As a consultant, I've lasted longer because I can switch clients and that works out really well. It's different. But I've never been in a job for never been in a company for more than 4 years. And that's my restless saboteur, right?
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm done. What's next? That's my thing. Okay, I'm done. What's next? What's next? So I've gone through, my husband's figured out every year, my company, he keeps out some amount of money for professional development. And I told him, I said, I don't have anything planned. He said, yeah, you do.
So what are the official characteristics of that saboteur?
So the official characteristics are easily distracted, can be scattered. So, you talk about following shiny. I talk about there's shiny and there's squirrel, right? Squirrel. I am shiny squirrel.
Yep.
I am a combination of both. I get distracted very easily. The characteristics are constantly busy, juggling multiple things. You just have to see my calendar.
Yeah, I know.
My husband believes that if I have a 10-minute window, I will squeeze something in.
Yeah.
Rather than just hang out and do nothing.
Yep.
I don't just need these. The restless doesn't need excitement. They need a variety of excitement.
I see.
It's not just the same thing, right? It has to be a different thing.
Yep.
They are constantly seeking new ways of being stimulated,
Gotcha.
New ways of energizing themselves. Those are some basic characteristics of the restless.
And what are they always thinking? What are their thoughts?
What's next? Yeah. The next thing is going to be better.
Yeah.
Even big FOMOs, by the way.
Yes.
Big FOMOs.
Yep.
What's Rikki doing? What's so-and-so doing? I should do that too. I want to do that too. Right. This is not this. I'm just not there. I had to do one more thing. The next thing will be the best thing ever. I need to do more things. And so that's good. Those are focused on me.
Yeah.
Sometimes the thoughts also focus on others, saying, damn it, woman, keep up with me.
Yep. And what are the feelings that come along with those thoughts?
Impatience.
Just
very impatient. Just I want things to move fast.
Yep.
The thought you're always in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
The feeling of always in the future. FOMO, big time FOMO.
Gotcha.
Restless. I can't deal with one option, but if you give me multiple options, I'll spend 5 hours trying to dig through the multiple options. Right?
And here's my favorite one. What justification lies are we telling ourselves so we can keep that saboteur, even though we know it's a saboteur?
You got one life to live. You better live it well.
Yes.
Right? Life is too short. I don't want to miss out a single thing.
Yeah.
So my entire family dreads when they have to buy me a gift because I don't want things. I want to experience stuff because there's only one life to live.
And so how does this impact your family and the people you work with? What's the impact on self and others?
I get impatient with them, right? I get impatient with them. I'm like, come on, catch up, will ya? I already got it. Why can't you catch up? So that gets a little uncomfortable, especially because my husband and I own our business together.
Yes.
So it's like, come on, catch up with me. And then I'm always looking for the next thing. My friends and family tell me, slow down.
Yeah.
Breathe. And so you have achieved. Breathe it in a bit.
Yeah, enjoy it, which we
enjoy it. Yeah.
And then my favorite one in the next few seconds, where did it start? What was it used in the beginning when we were kids as a survival guardian? How did it evolve?
So for me personally, I believe I was the third child. I was an accident. And by the time I came along, my brother and sister were older. So I had to find things for myself to keep me occupied. So I'm constantly looking for things.
Gotcha. Okay.
I believe that's how I got started.
That makes sense. And I think it also says that inadequate parental nurturing or painful circumstances, not saying that was your case, but that's one thing it mentions it, that kind of need to self-nurture, which I think spurs it as well. Yeah.
You know, the perfect example is I tell people, you know, my brother has a picture album that's this thick. My sister has a picture album halfway. Yeah. I never had a picture album because my mom said, by the time you came along, honey, I had no energy. So I made my own picture album, right?
That is an excellent, excellent example of where it was born. Perfect. We're going to take our last break. You're listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. When we come back, we're going to talk to Anu about how we weaken those self-saboteurs. Talk to you in 3. Welcome back. You're listening to My Turn Life Coaching, Reclaim Your Life with me, Rikki Schwartz. I have Anu Smalley with us talking about Shirzad Chamine's Saboteur Assessment Tool, a free online assessment tool that can be found at positiveintelligence.com. So Anu, here's the most important question. We can figure out our saboteurs. We can look at the report. We can figure out how it makes us think and feel and impacts others. We can figure out how it served as a guardian when we were a child. Mm-hmm. What do we do with them? How do we weaken them? How do we address them? Go.
So this is, you are never going to be able to be all done with them. So this is a lifelong journey. Some of the things I teach my clients, I work with my clients to do is first, recognize them. The first step is to admit you have a problem, right? So recognize you have a saboteur. Identify which saboteur you want to work on. Don't work on all 9 at the same time. That's your saboteur telling you to work on all 9, by the way. So pick one, figure out, you know, I do a quick activity with my clients where I have them recognize when your saboteur shows up. So it's a quick worksheet I do. So give your saboteur a name. And if you call your saboteur Bob, Bob is much less scary than, oh my God, my pleaser saboteur. Give your saboteur a name. You know, Bob the pleaser. Bob the pleaser, not that scary. You can actually deal with it, right? Yes. When you give these negative things a name, you actually reduce the power they have over you. So that's one. Recognize, the second thing is identify what is it that your saboteur says. You're not good enough. You need to do more. All other people in the world are stupid because they can't keep up with you. Oh, the next thing is going to be better. Recognize what your saboteur is fond of saying, and then say, oh, yep, there, I heard that again. My saboteur is here. So recognize. A third way of recognizing your saboteur is, do you have any physical things, the body sensations that happen? For example, I have a client who starts twirling her hair every time her pleaser saboteur shows up. We've recognized this after about 6 months of coaching. And we say, oh my God. And now every time she twirls her hair, she goes, well, she stops and she goes, okay, why is the pleaser showing up? What is the situation? What am I trying to protect from? So first step, recognize. So 3 ways: name it, identify what it says, recognize what it makes you feel. Do you start breathing heavier? Do you get palpitations? Do you get twicks and ticks and, little tweaks that you have of your body, right? Think about, once you recognize this, identify, what does your saboteur remind you of? Is it a person? Is it a thing? Is it an incident? So one of my saboteurs reminds me of my grandmother. So anytime that saboteur talks to me, it's in my grandmother's voice now. Oh. And the minute I hear that voice, I'm going, nah, nope, nah, nope.
That's good.
Not listening to you. So
I've never tried that. That's a good one.
Yeah. So recognize whose voice is in your head, because it's in your head. Somebody's voice is in your head. It's not yours. So recognize whose voice it is. Right? Yeah. Can you identify a time when you first recognized your saboteur, when you first experienced it? The first time I started wanting to please people was when I was 8 years old, 12 years old, 15, and what is it? Can you recognize the earliest moment? Because that's important, because now you're going to go, what happened then? That. And that is what is causing me to do this. Right? What does your saboteur do when they show up? What do they make you do? Do they make you shut down? Do they make you talk too much? Do they make you walk away? Do they make you write, read, talk, fight, curse? What do they make you do? Recognize that. Also try and recognize when your saboteur shows up, who else is around you? Because sometimes people in your life, you'll associate them because you're reacting to something. So for example, there are certain people, when my pleaser saboteur shows up and my grandma's voice shows up, I'm going, that's because you're like my grandma.
Yes.
Because you are making me feel this way.
Yes. That reminds me of, I think that my saboteurs in my past always showed up when I was with my family at Thanksgiving. They just came out in spades when I was at Thanksgiving with my family, because each one of my relatives triggered the saboteur. So that's a great one.
So then now you think of, okay, so now how do you help yourself? If you know Aunt Jane is going to trigger me, Aunt Jane is going to be at Thanksgiving, before you walk into the room, do some self-management.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about this forever, Anu, but we have to wrap up the segment there. Is there anything else you want to throw in before we get to my closing?
Just that in recognizing saboteurs is great, but then remember the biggest trick, recognize, but then do some self-management.
Yeah.
A quick tip, self-management, breathing, meditation, just going, I know she's going to trigger me, and I know I'm going to want to rip her head off, but I am going to smile my way through and say, thank you, Aunt Jane, for that wonderful opinion of me. I will keep that in mind, and I'm going to move on. So what are you going to do? So self-management is key, because the self-management brings in the sage, which allows you to self-manage. Maybe we can do another session and talk about this aspect of it.
Yes, I think that would be wonderful. Even just talking about the difference between the saboteur and the sage. We will save that for another podcast because it's so fascinating. Thank you, Anu. Before we close out, I want to remind listeners of the link to the Saboteur Assessment tool, positiveintelligence.com. Anu, share your social media handle with our listeners. The best one to use, I assume it's LinkedIn. What does that look like?
Anu Smalley.
Got it. ANUSMALLEY.
Yes,
if any go ahead.
Yep.
If any listeners are interested in finding out more about my personal and professional life coaching services and how they're designed to help you reclaim your life, go to myturnlifecoaching.com. There you can also go to the podcast tab to find recordings of this and all of my Transformation Talk radio shows. Finally, I want to thank my guest Anu again for introducing us to this amazing tool. I cannot think of a better way for us to reclaim our lives, which is the theme of this radio show and my life coaching brand, than discover and weaken our self-saboteurs. As always, Anu, I had a wonderful time talking with you. We will do a part 2 because there's so much more to dive into. Thank you so much again. In our next podcast, we're going to switch to one of the most socially relevant topics of our time, allyship, which is the practice of emphasizing social justice, inclusion, and human rights by members of an in-group to advance the interests of an oppressor marginalized out-group. Our guest will be Carol Lee Hutton, Vice President for Business Development and Marketing at Inforum, a Michigan nonprofit focused on gender diversity in leadership. In this episode, Carol and I will discuss what a true ally does and why it matters so much in our personal and professional lives. Join us for that on Wednesday, May 12th at noon Pacific time. As always, special thanks to my amazing producer, Jacob Kappas, who always makes this process so effortless for myself and my guests. Finally, I'm going to close out this interview as I do every interview with one of my favorite quotes or contemplations related to life transformation. Today's food for thought is, make sure your worst enemy is not living between your ears. Till next time, be thinking about what you can do to help you reclaim your life. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks so much for tuning into My Turn Life Coaching with me, Rikki Schwartz. Now, before you go, ask yourself this question. At my memorial service, what do I want folks to say was my passion? What do I want them to say was my purpose? If you don't know, or you don't think they'll know, then it's time to say it out loud. It's my turn. Visit myturnlifecoaching.com today and let me help you reclaim your life.